Hey, how's it going? I hope you're doing good. So I'm sitting here on a nice fall day. Very beautiful today, and I'm just kind of sitting here. All the back patio is put away, and sometimes I would get really hot, like inside, like in the cooler months. And I just said I got to get outside just to like cool down a little bit. And so I would come out here and sit for 5, maybe 10 minutes and just kind of cool down. And I really liked it. So I don't get as hot anymore. I still get, hot, and I'll, like start, like if I'm, doing dishes or carrying boxes or something, you still start getting hot and sweaty and stuff. But anyhow, I'm just sitting out here, and it's a really nice day. I mean, the leaves have changed colors, and just taking a little break, taking a break and sitting out here. I can hear the leaves. I can hear the road nearby with cars and traffic going by. And I can hear the leaves and the wind. I can hear the wind. I brought a bottle of water, so I'm going to have a sip of water. Feels really refreshing. And I can just sit here for a little while, cool off a little bit. So I almost didn't sit out here because a lot of times when I sit out here, the sun is shining down, and I get a little bit of the warmth from the sun shining down. And today I looked out here right before I was going to walk out here, and there was no sun. It was just in shade. I said, well, it's going to be quite a bit colder. It's when the sun is shining down, it warms it up quite a bit here. And when it's in the shade, it can be much colder. I remember that from, going skiing and being on the mountain. It's like when you're on the chairlift or something, and the sun is shining down, it sort of warms you a little bit. You've got you'll have like maybe a dark colored jacket or a solid colored jacket, something that seems to absorb the sun. Even though it's cold outside, it feels so much nicer with that sun shining down, when it's cold. But, when it's hot, it can get really bright. You can't see very much. And contrast, I guess, you like contrast, When it's sunny, when it's hot, you want the shade. Right? And when it's freezing cold, you want some warmth from the sun. I tried to play Grand Theft Auto today on the PlayStation, and when I opened it up, when I went to the loading screen, it was Leicester, and it said, "Sorry, the server's down." So I took a screenshot of it, and then right after that, it was able to load. So I don't know if it was an error or something. I don't know what it was. I'm sure it wasn't a. They talked about the PlayStation Network going down or something, but I don't know what it was. It was just for a second, and then I could enter the game. And then I said, maybe you do something and it strikes on the first time. It strikes on the first time. You say, well, it wasn't available right when I was there, so don't try to keep keep trying over and over and keep go into the game or whatever. So it's a little different, when I was, especially with technology, it's like so many things don't work, and I get really upset, and I say, like, nothing works here. Nothing. I used to say nothing works in this country. Everything is broken, or everything, nothing works. And so what I used to do, and maybe that's with a little bit of mental illness too, you with technology, so many things wouldn't work. And this is separate from, developing or trying something and then iteratively getting better, or developing something. This is just being an end user and trying to use stuff, and it gets broken, it doesn't work. And when I was younger, I would try stuff over and over and over again until I could get something to work, or some part of it to work. And I would spend a lot of energy, and then somehow through sort of the mental illness, whatever, I just said, I'm not gonna exert any more time or energy into something if it doesn't work on the first try. So what that meant doing was choosing something else as soon as a product or device didn't work on the first try. So it was like, if it doesn't work, you do something entirely different or something else, and that has a lot of trade-offs. You sort of try things, and you try to work at things to get them to work over and over and over again, and then eventually, if it doesn't work right away, you sort of make some type of compromise. It's like, I tried to get it this, and well, it sort of works, or it kind of works, or it works halfway. However compromise in the language, or in the availability, or in the utility of whatever it is. And, I always grew up, with my dad or whatever, and he would always, he would sort of enter those conversations like, well, what do you need it for? If you don't need that much, or you don't need, that high quality or whatever for whatever you're doing, then you don't get it or whatever, And so, a lot of times, if you wanted to experiment, you wanted to try something new, you wouldn't have the functionality because it was too much, or it was not needed. So, you sort of always could, find something. And a lot of times then you didn't want to compromise. So you'd say, well, don't do it anyway, or just, we won't do it at all, and, now it's like, say, well, I'll try something else, or I'll do something different. Why do iterations over and over and over again when the end result will be a compromise? You just do something totally different. can hear a bird. There's a bird over there. The Mariners won. I couldn't believe it. Now, I don't know how to pronounce his name. On TV, I've heard his name pronounced a couple different ways. Eugenio Suarez, I heard it pronounced, I think during the first series against Detroit. And then last night I heard whether it was Eugenio or Gino Suarez being pronounced. And so maybe Gino Suarez is a nickname and Eugenio Suarez is how his name's pronounced. I thought it was Eugenio. I thought it was Eugenio Suarez. But that grand slam last night was just, oh man, so good. Watching him play, and I don't get very many Mariners games here. And as a little kid, I grew up, and at first, I either liked the Mariners and then I didn't like the Mariners, and then I liked the Mariners. And I would go to games once in a while, not very often. I did see there was a playoff game in like 1995 or 96, and I went to it with some high school classmates of mine, and I think it was when Edgar Martinez hit an in the park home run or something. They hit an in the park home run, and the crowd was going nuts, and they won the game, and that got them into the wild card. I think it was like a 1-game playoff or something. It was a while back. But that was it was, I don't want to say madness, but it was really loud in the crowd. And then when I was younger, much younger, I went to a birthday party. And the birthday party, we went to the Mariners game. We sat sort of on the far right field side. And they weren't bad tickets. They were good tickets. We could see, and I don't know if he was new at that time or not, but Jay Beuhner played right field, and he got the ball and he threw it. I think he was trying to throw it home, and he threw it into the dugout on the third base side. And I remember that, and that was a little. I don't think the crowd was happy about that, but that was before he became, he got to be better on those teams. It must have been 7 or 8 years before, the team with Ken Griffey Jr. and I don't know if I think Alex Rodriguez on the team. I don't remember. And they got into the playoffs, which was really good. And that playoff game I think it was the wild card of the playoff game for the playoffs. It was just, and I think in the media and stuff they talk about the game after that. I can't remember, but the game that was a playoff to get to that, it was like a 1-game playoff or something. Somehow we got tickets and we went to that, and we were just jumping up and down. I mean, it was, you couldn't believe it, And now they're 1 game away from being in the World Series, which is even more unbelievable, and that was 30 years ago. So I guess I am a Mariners fan, but I haven't always. I've never actually been able to buy a Mariners hat. So and I don't want to. If they were to win the World Series, I would not want to. I don't know that I want to jinx it by buying a Mariners hat, but it's one of those old sort of classmate school things that like I never buy a Mariners hat. So I think that's unless they win the World Series. So I don't buy a Mariners hat unless they win the World Series. But if they win the World Series, the same thing happened with the Seahawks. The Seahawks won a Super Bowl. I was so upset when they lost to the Steelers in 2005, but then they went on to win the Super Bowl. And I think I got hats and I got jerseys. And I was so excited for the second Super Bowl. And they lost that second Super Bowl. So superstitions arise, you buy all the hats and stuff and then they don't win or whatever, and then of course you say, well, we'll buy it before and then you won't worry about that superstition or whatnot, but minor superstitions. So, and then it's like, well, you get a team hat and then they change the logo, or they get a new uniform or logo or whatever, so I don't know how to deal with that, but Well, I hope you're doing good, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.